Okay, well, it looks like you're live now, so welcome back, everyone, to the RPG Valkyries, RPGs We Love 3. To help the ladies of the Valkyries to get to RPG Limit Break, along with any money that's left over going to donate to the charity of RPG Limit Break, which is NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Coming up next is Yagamoth doing Secret of Mana. And we got a couple of quick things. You still have a last chance to snipe the name of the boy, but you better do that really quickly. Sprite is in the lead with $20, and $5 with Puckett is far behind. Got another naming incentive for the Sprite coming up. You got until after the or when we get to the Tropico boss. With Boy is in the lead with 20, trying to confuse the characters. And then you can choose the main weapon, which you have until the end of the first boss, which someone needs to give a lot of money if they don't want Boomerang to be it. So I guess coming up shortly here, I'm going to pass it off to Yagamoth and enjoy the soothing sounds of Yagamoth into the morning.
Alrighty. Thank you very much, High Spirits. I really appreciate that. So, alrighty. Also, first of all, everybody, thank you so much for watching, for listening, and for lurking. And the donation incentive for Handcam was met, which means we are going to see 3 controllers that are going to be played here. Let me actually also activate the game audio, because I forgot. There we go. And hopefully everything should be reasonably well balanced. And yeah, here we are. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. And High Spirits, I will need to get the name for the boy in just like half a minute. Let me introduce you to this game real quick. Anybody who may not know it, this is an action RPG from the Super Nintendo era. And it is definitely one of the classics because, well, a lot of people played it with their siblings, and this game features up to 3-player simultaneous co-op through an RPG adventure, which is kind of very unusual, honestly. It was, for that very reason, pretty much one of my favorites, and still is one of my favorite games ever. The 1-player 2-controller category, which is the 1P2C you see at the bottom, is actually not just a gimmick in this game here. This is actually the main category for the game, curiously enough. And, well, I'm going to be using 2 controllers for a large portion of the run, and that's kind of mostly it. Oh, maybe I'm playing on the SNES mini version, which I like to use for marathons because it does have certain changes to it that are just visually less extreme. There's rather significant flashing in the Super Nintendo version, as well as the Switch Mana Collection version that I've tried yesterday, where it's, well, rather unpleasant on the eye and potentially even bad for people with seizures. This version here should not have any of that. Alrighty, what do we do, High Spirits?
We are going to name the boy Sprite.
We're gonna name the boy Sprite. Alrighty, that sounds like a plan. So the Sprite here is, well, a shapeshifter, I suppose, and let me tell you, we have 6 character name, which actually means this is gonna be a bit slower than usual, because the longer your character name, well, the more the game has to type out in text boxes. But oh well, this is for the sake of charity, and I would say let's get this going in 3, 2, 1, let's move. Alrighty. Once again, welcome everybody for the 1-player 2-controller category, and initially we only have 1 character, so I can't exactly take control of 2 characters if there's only 1. There is some weirdness if you would like to pre-set up some stuff, but most of these things lead to soft locks if you actually use a second controller for that, or save reset, you'll see. Also, some people might be wondering why there was no naming incentive for naming the lady, because it is a 3-character game after all, and that is, well, you will see. It's kind of obvious once we get to it, to say the least. So, the next incentives are going to be which weapon we're going to be choosing, which I believe the Boomerang is pretty heavily in the lead. That is going to be cut off after we defeat the first boss, which is the Mantis Ant. And the naming incentive for the Sprite is going to be cut off as soon as we enter the boss arena with the second boss, that is Tropico. And yeah, that's that. And welcome everybody. So, I can usually just talk forever, but High Spirits, if there's anything, feel free to interrupt me. So this is
Oh.
basically a an action RPG from the Super Nintendo era, as mentioned before. The plot is kind of simple. You're this boy here who falls down a waterfall, and don't worry, falling damage is not a thing in this universe. That's just how the world plays, so to speak. And well,
He just went wee down the waterfall.
yep, there is. So our sprite here, that's gonna be weird. Our sprite here now needs to some way to be able to get back to the home village. And the question is, how do we do this? Well, there's a convenient sword right here. Turns out, well, as you might expect, because this is an RPG, this is the Sword of Legend that is, I guess not the Sword of Evil Spain, that's for a different game, but it's approximately the same concept. It's a very powerful sword, in theory, except that it's rather rusty right now. It's literally called the Rusty Sword. And this introduces you to the concept of this role-playing game. As soon as this little cutscene here is over, we will get a stamina bar and a health meter at the bottom. So, the health is actually just in numbers. It's going to be 50 out of 50 health. And below you see a little bar. That bar will only be displaying a percentage meter. That percentage displays how close you are to 100% stamina. And in this game here, you do not want to attack enemies unless you have 100 stamina, or specifically know that you can deal just enough damage with not quite 100 stamina. There's also the concept of low damage rolls, where if I have 100% stamina, I will deal 14 damage instead of 18. That is completely random, there's not really anything I can do about that. So I need to defeat a few enemies here on the long way. This is going to be number 4 and number 5 right here as well. So the idea is there is 2 types of levels in Seeker of Mana. One is the character level, your stats increase, etc., kind of like you would know from most RPGs. And the other one is where your weapon level actually increases. Weapon level increasing is kind of one of my favorite features about this game. The idea is that the more you use a weapon, the better you get at it. So it does not actually increase the damage you deal. Once you reach like level 1 with the sword, you always start at level 0. And it just allows you to charge up the weapon to the next highest level. In this case, our sword is just a very basic sword, and the maximum charge level we can achieve is level 1. So as soon as I will hit level 1, that is basically as strong as the sword is going to get. And what I can do then, once it reaches level 1, is I can hold down the B button, which is this yellow button here, in order to charge up an attack, which takes a while until it is fully charged. And for each charged level, I'll deal 50% more damage. The higher up you upgrade your weapon, the higher you can go with your charge level. And that will actually be a bit relevant very soon for that matter. So here we have the first boss. Curiously enough, you cannot lose this boss battle. As soon as your HP gets depleted, you will be, well, revived by a cutscene. Which is convenient, because this is actually not an easy boss fight. This is the Mantis Ant here, and he likes to just hit you and hit you and hit you again. There's about 3 different ways how you can tackle this guy, but the easiest way is to just stand in front of him and swing just before he swings at you. Actually, it's not the easiest way, it's just the fastest. Alrighty, way to go. We level up our character level to level 1, indicated by us gaining a bit more HP. As you might be able to see, we now have 59 HP, that is level 2. And we need a total of 11 enemy kills in order to level up the sword from level 0 to level 1. And that is going to be my goal, usually before the Water Palace. Alrighty, so I will need to know the weapon that we are going to be using for this challenge, High Spirits.
Shockingly enough, it's the boomerang. We did not get any donations.
Alrighty, so the boomerang is actually a pretty fascinating weapon. It is strong in its own right, and I will make, or try to make, good use of it, to say the least. There's actually certain enemies that I can straight up not hit with the boomerang, like it's literally impossible. I will be making sure to point these out. Other than that, I will be pretty much always be using the boomerang, or for that matter, the sword where, well, absolutely necessary. The boomerang we will acquire as soon as we recruit a sprite into our party, so until then I will still have to use the sword. Normally in the speedrun here, we will use the spear in order to be our main attack weapon, and that is also where most of the speedrun techniques are balanced around. Also, we do acquire the spear on this next cutscene set over here, whereas the boomerang is going to be coming up a little bit later, which is going to throw off my leveling a little bit, but overall we will basically be able to just make do. It's gonna be fine. The weapon skill leveled up, sword reaches level 1, which means we don't have to worry about the sword anymore for a while. Until we upgrade it, that is. And that was actually my entire goal for, well, leveling up the weapons. I will be gaining one more character level before we reach the next boss, but that is mainly for safety, because I will be defeating a bunch of enemies along the way that could otherwise be rather dangerous if I didn't deal with them directly. Here we get into the water palace. So the short version of the story is that the boy picked up the sword from the waterfall where he fell down. He was not supposed to, because that sword was apparently protecting everybody from the monsters around, and now that he pulled out the sword, all the monsters have spawned. Although, to be fair, the monsters have kind of been around since a long time anyways, apparently, because there were kind of a bunch of skulls down where the mantis ant monster was. Either way, we met this guy on the left side. His name is Gemma, kind of like the Gemma Knights from the predecessor of this game, Final Fantasy Adventure, or Mystic Knight Legend, I think it's called in Europe. Basically, that's a Game Boy game. And if you know anything about the Gemma Knights, well, they are kind of the main helper friends, good people to say the least. And he introduces us to Luca here. Luca is the patron of the water, which she protects the mana seed of the water. That mana seed of the water is basically going to be our overall plot goal, where we're supposed to seal all the 8 mana seeds in the entire world in order to bring the sword back to its full power and stop whatever evil is going on or is threatening to destroy mana. Mana being basically the kind of magic-y power that is in this game. Here's also where we acquire the spear. I might actually just use the spear for simplicity until later, because this segment here is normally being played with the spear, and we do not yet have the boomerang that I will be mainly using, so I'll just use that for now. Normally we would be leveling up the spear to level 1, so the end goal for leveling weapons is going to be having one weapon at level 1 and the other weapon at level 2. And for this we would normally level up the spear towards level 1 right now, but well, since this is not going to be our main weapon, we are going to wait until we get the boomerang for that. I will still be just hitting enemies so we don't get hit. Alrighty, another interesting portion of this game here is, in my opinion, I love the travel system, because it's apparently perfectly normal to hop into a cannon and get shot out to your desired destination. Definitely one of my favorite things about this game. As I said, fall damage doesn't exist, and we would just move over here, land in Gaia's navel, and get right into the first actual glitch of the game. Kind of technically too, whatever. So here, what we're gonna do is we are going to trick the game into letting us sell an empty item slot. What this means is we will put the cursor onto the second item in our inventory after buying 2 items. So we have a candy and a chocolate. I bought the chocolate second, I put the cursor onto the chocolate. Then I'm gonna sell both items. Go into the buy menu afterwards. Then go back out of the buy menu and go into the sell menu again, and suddenly I can select things I shouldn't be able to select, and I am able to, well, effectively sell nothing. It looked like I sold that rabbit cap over there, the yellow hat. But Effectively, the game treats it as I'm selling literally nothing, which creates a corrupted item called the Blood for sale, which is worth about 30,000 gold approximately. And that is pretty much all the gold I will need for the rest of the game. Because this is a marathon, I'm going to be saving here before proceeding, because it is relatively easy to die in this next section. So I would rather not have that. Okie dokie. Now, next up, we just run through the cave here. Level 2, that is more than sufficient. So these bats here, they cast spells. Spells you cannot avoid in any capacity. If they're targeted on you, they will always hit. You, however, can potentially negate the effect or avoid the effect from taking place via using an item or healing items or some other timed fashion. However, we only have one character right now, and because this is a crowd control effect, we literally can't do anything until it wears off, which is basically, Balloon is about an 8-second stun. I can't do anything during it. Oh, that's right, I don't need to kill these guys. Maybe I should have anyways. I'm so used to just defeating them. Alrighty, here I'm going to just make sure that this slime is out of my way, so we can actually just walk past. These slimes here, if you have played this game casually, they are pretty annoying to defeat if you try to straight up defeat them, but also kind of interesting to just, well, grind on if you try to do that instead. Alrighty, we find the magic rope. Magic rope is an item that never depletes. You can use it an infinite amount of times, however many times you want, and it brings you back to the entrance of a cave or a dungeon or an area that you have entered. So if I were to use it now, I would land back outside, pretty much, in the water. But I kinda don't want to do that. Alright, what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to briefly defeat another enemy just to gain that level that I would normally have here for the next boss fight. Normally I would level up the spear up to level 1, but as mentioned before, we're gonna be using the boomerang, so not going to quite use that, so just getting that level 3, it makes a little bit of a difference for how much damage I deal, and that can actually make, well, all the difference really. So first of all, we arrived in the Dwarven village where we were told that we should visit Watts, the blacksmith, who can upgrade our weapon and refine it. And we have acquired a weapon orb after defeating the Menace End. That weapon orb allows us to upgrade the sword to the next higher level. In this case, we forged the sword to level 2. Now that it's level 2, we actually can defeat more enemies, 12.5 to be exact, in order to level up the sword to level 2. So, it is also, after being forged, a bit stronger on a baseline, so that will help us as well. So, as a reminder for the incentive for naming the sprite, it will be cut off as soon as I enter the arena with the boss fight with Tropicalo, which is going to come up in just about a minute here. So that's going to be a thing. And I buy a bunch of equipment. And you might have noticed I bought a lot of armors. The reason for this is because I'm going to use another bit of a glitch. So I will be standing against this left wall here. Then I will equip an item and throw it away. Equip an item, throw it away. Equip an item, throw it away. Equip an item, throw it away. And the idea here is that I can manipulate certain values in my inventory that I'm not supposed to be able to manipulate. So what the game is supposed to do is unequip your item before deleting it. But what the game actually does is it reduces a certain value based on your horizontal position on the screen. The short version is I reduce all the amounts of items in my inventory by 2 each. And this means now, instead of having 2 of each consumable item, I have 8. Because it just underflows that. That's the short version. Alrighty. Now the sprite has met the boy here. Well, I guess it might be the boy, but we don't know yet. It could be a different name. The sprite meets the Dwarven village elder. By the way, the boy is called Sprite, which is why I'm calling him a sprite. And the sprite here is basically, well, The sprite is not from the Dwarven village, let's put it this way. They are from the upper lands, it is called, but they don't really know that. They have kind of an amnesia, memory loss type of deal going on, so not entirely sure what is happening, but they are trying to get home and also pay for a trip home, which is why they are kind of scamming people out of the money, or something like that. They're not trying to get rich or anything like that, probably. So, here, the naming incentive for the sprite should now be cut off, and we are fighting Tropic Hollow. What I'm doing here is I'm charging up my weapon up to level 1, and that will deal 50% more damage than the previous attack. As you can only ever hit Tropic Hollow, well, usually once, but with a good timing you can hit him twice per cycle, so it makes sense to just charge up your weapon as high as possible. Basically, the level 1 weapon attack is a forward lunge attack, and this also allows me to move while attacking. So if I release the button after charging it, this is the attack that you see. It also has a longer lingering attack hitbox round, which allows me to also do some other shenanigans. Basically, the move forward for the level 1 sword attack is important, as well as, well, the hitbox that is lingering around for a bit longer than a lot of other weapons, or even just a singular weapon strike. Alrighty, I will need the weapon, or the name for the sprite here.
Nothing came in, so your sprite is going to be the boy.
Alrighty, so we have a boy that is the sprite, and we have a sprite that is the boy. Nice. Once again, it's not just about typing in the name that costs time, but each time the name is printed out on the screen, it costs you 1 frame per character. 1 frame is 1/60th of a second, because this game runs at 60 frames per second. And here we go, thank you very much for donating for this. And we have the boy in a party now, excellent. The boy also comes with the boomerang, which we equip here on the sprite, by just switching out the weapons.
Cool, can I take a quick second here?
Sure, go ahead.
Coming up after Yagamoth's run is Ultima 6 by Squibbins, and we do not have a name for the name of the avatar yet. So even a minimum donation will allow you to name the avatar in Squibbins' run.
What is the avatar?
It is the quest of the avatar, but we don't know who the avatar is because he doesn't have a name yet.
I see. So I assume that's your main character.
Yep, Avatar is the main character.
Alrighty, well then, that's up for grabs. Okay, we have now acquired the boomerang, which I will need to level up to level 1, and I will afterwards need to level up the sword to level 2. So that's gonna be a bit of a weird affair here, because I kind of have to make up the route on the fly, kind of like I will have to make most of the boss fights up. So, I'm using now the second controller to equip the sprite with all the equipment pieces we've equipped, and I set the second controller to have the control scheme, or specifically the D-pad, be upside down. For this reason, I now have one controller regular right side up and the other controller upside down, and that will be basically the way I'm going to be handling this for now. So, I need to level up the boomerang, and I need to kill 11 enemies that actually give me full weapon experience in order to do so. So I will just take my time here, killing a few more enemies that I would not normally go after, so that is 3 so far, and I need to keep count. So you might also see that I'm switching characters around decently frequently, to say the least, and this will allow me to just hit them and hit them with the sprite. So in this game you can more or less freely switch characters around by pressing the select button, and I can activate the second controller by pressing the start button on the second controller, and also release the second character again by once again pressing the start button on the second controller a second time. So, alrighty. We are actually not going to Eleni's forest, so what we are supposed to do now is we've tried to enter the Earth Temple, but we can't go in there right now because there's a magical seal and we have no idea how to undo it. We're supposed to visit Eleni in the forest, and we are going to. But we are going to do so by a bit unconventional means, let's put it this way. I have to briefly equip the right with the spear, because I don't know how else to do the setup. So, we're going to just hop straight through the wall. Or, well, try to anyways. So, the sprite is hitting that rope pole up there, where the sprite is sitting, and that rope pole is kinda weird. In fact, that's pretty much true for all the rope poles. So what happens is, the game allows you to walk through a wall for, just a moment, basically. But it also does not allow you to continue moving. Well, not normally anyways. So what I'm doing here, I continue hitting the rope pole that is right next to me, and... But here's the thing. AI control character can still move. If you have played this game casually, chances are you have encountered it where an AI control character decided to move straight through a wall because they can do that whenever you're trying to jump across a gap with the whip. So the way you're supposed to cross that gap is by using a whip weapon, and that will allow your characters to cross safely. But, well, practically, right now we just walk through the wall with two characters in two different ways, because, well, we can do that. Alrighty. And I still need to level up the boomerang up to level 1 before I get too far, so I might have to backtrack a little bit in a second. These guys here spawn enemies, and that's actually mildly convenient because I want more enemies to spawn in order to be able to defeat more of them. These bull rats here have 60 HP, so we just keep defeating more and more until we finally level up the boomerang. The ice spies themselves have 100 HP, so they are actually really beefy for however strong they are, and that's less than ideal. So when you're Moogled, which, welcome to the game franchise that actually came up with the idea of Moogles. When you're Moogled, you cannot actually move your character. You cannot actually do anything combat-wise. Like, you're just stuck, basically. Well, I'm just Moogled again. I blame the boomerang, but that's okay. We can work with it. Alrighty, so now we leveled up the boomerang to level 1, which on the boy, which was the difficult part. Now I'm going to be leveling up the sword up to level 2. In order to reach level 2 with the sword, I need 12.5 enemy kills, and unfortunately we have a chest spawn, which actually prevents one enemy from spawning. So, what do I mean with 12.5 enemy kills? That sounds kind of weird. And the short version about that is that in order to get full weapon experience, there needs to be two conditions. One, your character has to be the one making the last hit on the enemy. And two, you need to be no higher level than the enemy's level is in order to get the full weapon experience out of it. So for that reason, the boy actually does not get full weapon experience anymore from like the mushrooms or the flowers, so it doesn't exactly matter whether the sprite or the boy kills the flower. The sprite still gets full weapon experience from, let's say, the flowers, and whenever you are not the one last hitting the enemy, you only get half a weapon kill, or half the experience your ally has received, in short. Getting a little bit weird here, I guess. Either way, the short version is that the boy needs a bit more experience here, and I need to try and come up with a strategy to defeat a few more enemies. And we only have 4 enemies killed, actually 5, because Tropicala also counts as an enemy that we defeated with the sword earlier. So I will probably just go back in and out of the door in this next section here very briefly. Also, I deliberately did not hit the Ice Spy on the second swing. He would normally die to this, but I want him to spawn more enemies. This is going to be 9 right here, actually 10. The sprite's weapon skill up. Actually, no, the sword is level 2 now. So never mind, we already got the required experience, so to speak. So we're fine. Also a bit higher level on the cactus. Doesn't really make a difference, unfortunately, but that's the thing. Okay, now we come to the boss that probably was a childhood nightmare for many people. Like, Spiky Tiger is genuinely really difficult if you don't use a certain glitch. So this is going to be the mainstay for how we play the game. So what I will be doing is I'm going to be charging up the sword to level 2. Then, this is why we use 2 controllers. I use the second controller to exchange the weapon from the sprite over to the boy. So that means I will put a level 2 charge attack that the sword charged up onto the level 1 boomerang. The game is really confused about what is happening on that moment. So I'll start charging up to level 2 here. Oh, I was slightly too late, that's fine. Boomerang's a bit weird. And then the game gets really confused. And we just hit the boss for a ridiculous amount of damage. So the short version what happened there is the game notices whenever you fill up your charge bar that hey, it should increase the weapon charge level by 1 because you have a maximum charge bar. But when you reach the regular maximum, like in the case of the sword, you reach the maximum of level 2 with the sword, it stops resetting the charge bar. But because me switching over to the boomerang is a level 1 weapon, the game notices, oh, you're not at your maximum charge. Like, it checks for whether you have reached exactly your maximum charge level, and if you haven't, it will increase your charge attack by 1. But also because I am over my maximum charge level, it will not reset the charge bar. So in short, what is happening, the game increases my charge attack by another one every other frame, which means 30 times a second I increase my charge attack by 1. And that gets very, very ridiculous very quickly. And you see a bit of a garbled mess where the number is supposed to be. To give you a frame of reference, if you don't know the game, regularly the maximum charge attack is a level 8 charge attack. That is ridiculously strong, but takes literally 20 seconds or so to charge up in the first place. And deals 400% damage if you actually hit an enemy with it. We attack with a charge attack approximately level 40, 50, something like that. And in the end, this means we are just dealing effectively maximum damage to all enemies around. Which definitely helps our case to, well, defeat them rather quickly. And this is how the one-player, two-controller category came to be. You can do this overcharge glitch, as we call it, with only a single controller, but you have to rely on an AI-controlled character to do the overcharging and actually hitting. So that's bad for a simple reason that AI-controlled characters are not terribly smart in how they try to attack enemies or how quickly they attack enemies. They are basically a bit random, let's put it that way. So, we charge up or overcharge our attack again. Also, what I'm gonna do here, just for safety, and that's exactly why, I need to charge up my attack. And you can see the boomerang behaves really weirdly, and I didn't hit this guy. There we go. So, this is why using anything but, well, this is why using ranged weapon with overcharge attack is actually really, really difficult. So, let me explain real quick. Whenever you charge up your ranged weapons, they have a certain distance the projectile flies with the bow and arrow, with the boomerang, with the javelin that we acquire right here. It will fly a certain distance. Now the catch is that distance is lengthened with each charge attack. But because we are overcharging to a level the game never expects, it effectively reaches values that are way outside the range of the screen, and as a result, instead of it being a ranged weapon, it literally only stays right on top of you when the boomerang, well, gets thrown. So that's kinda bad, because your ranged weapon suddenly is literally the shortest ranged weapon there is. And that is why, also unfortunately, there is going to be one boss coming up after the next one that I will probably have to use a sword for. Now there's another part, however, that is actually a bit more interesting about specifically the boomerang. The boomerang is special in that it actually allows you to hit enemies twice, potentially. So most weapons, whenever you use a charge attack, let's say you use a bluff charge attack that does like a 20-hit combo or something like that, it will only ever hit an individual enemy once. If it hits the enemy, or if the enemy dodges or deflects the blow, that's it. You get one chance to hit that enemy, no matter how fancy or how many attacks it looks like your character is doing. The boomerang is slightly different in certain charge levels. Specifically level 1, level 3, technically level 2, but good luck with that. Level 5 or 6, I don't remember, and level 8. Those charge attacks actually have two attacks in a sense. They have both a melee attack, where the character is just wildly flailing the boomerang around, as well as a ranged attack, where the projectile can just fly. Now, the flying projectiles, as you could tell, is very, very difficult to hit an enemy with. So that is kind of less than ideal at times. But in a lot of cases I will be trying to get a charge attack that will be using one of the melee range attacks on the boomerang. But because you can attack twice with weapons, it does actually potentially have a benefit over every other weapon. Except technically the javelin, which does have one specific charge level 5, that also has 2 attacks. Every other weapon, aside from that one specific instance, outside of the boomerang, is just 1 attack, but the boomerang can hit twice. And soon we will actually meet enemies that have a bit of a, well, it's difficult to hit them, because the game decides whether you hit it or not. And there's a certain stat called evasion, which means I'm going to basically miss about 40% of the time, and there's not a whole lot I can do about that. The sprite just got slowed, I use a medical herb to remove the status effect, and unfortunately, I'm just getting absolutely clobbered here. And I would like to preferably not die, so what I'm gonna do is I'm using a barrel. It's actually kind of unusual to get stopped right here in this kind of manner. I'm gonna revive the boy, go back into the previous screen, switch over to the boy, and then we go into the next area.
Don't you mean revive sprite?
Oh, right, we are surviving the sprite who died. The boy thankfully survived, who is normally the more frail one. This is confusing.
I think that was the point of the donation, was to make it confusing.
Yep. Alrighty. Oh yeah, I haven't even mentioned the lady yet. Give me a second, this is tricky. This might work? Maybe. Okay, we got it. Alrighty, so, you may have noticed we only have 2 characters so far. And we are supposed to have 3 at this point in the game. There's supposed to be the lady that joins our party. Either you can recruit her at the castle, or you can recruit her at 2 werewolves that you normally have to beat, which also are actually pretty dangerous in a casual playthrough. Like, no joke, those are mean. Now the thing is, the lady is not here because we took the back entrance to the Elenese forest. And what this means is she actually is not in the party, and we have never met her. As a result, well, all the cutscenes where she's supposed to say something, her name is, well, here, something like this. Go 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 go. What? Me? Married? To what? Either way, it actually makes for rather weird text boxes because your character name is about 4 times as long as it should be. Also, they say to the mana seed. Yeah, but not this one. The game never checks for whether you seal the mana seed off Earth or not, so we just ignore this one. But yeah, because we never got the lady, the cutscene texts actually just have the default value for the lady's name, which happens to be 12 times go, which is a total of 24 characters, and yes, that actually does cost us about half a minute to 3/4 of a minute, because that's just how long the text is. Kind of curious, I suppose. Alrighty, also, the Fire Gigas was actually rather dangerous for a number of reasons. For one, we only have 2 characters, so the attack that actually normally hits your entire party only hits 2 characters, so the damage is actually increased by about 50%, for each character hit, so to speak. So that's concerning, to say the least. And the other part is that I'm really not used to using the boomerang on the fire gigas, which as a result makes it even trickier, since the fire gigas is actually a very tight timing on how you can possibly hit him and defeat him with the spear normally. So what you want to do is you want to hit him with the sprite and hit him with one of two possible charge attacks that deal just enough damage, but also are just fast enough before he counterattacks after the first slash. But because it's a boomerang, I kind of have to take the lottery and hope that I get the attack through, since this is not normally the weapon that we run with. Also, I'm going to make relatively frequent safety saves, mainly because the boomerang is a weird weapon to use. And I was standing basically right on top of the fire gigas in order to be able to hit him with every single boomerang charge attack, so that worked out in my favor. The next boss, unfortunately, is a wall. So the wall we would need to hit with weapons that actually have a bit more reach than, well, the boomerang has, ironically. And I will try to get a charge attack with the boomerang that might be able to hit the wall, but it might not be possible. I think it's not possible. I think I've tried it before, but I'm gonna try it again real quick. Not gonna spend too much time on it, but it's very likely I will have to use the sword specifically in order to defeat this next boss. So, there's actually certain aspects I haven't quite mentioned yet. For example, stealing a mana seed actually is not just a plot element, it actually does benefit you stat-wise. I don't think you necessarily see it in the stats menu, but you do get a boost to your attack, your defense, your magic power whenever you steal a mana seed. So, because we are using overcharge attacks and we deal all the damage we need, we really don't necessarily need that in any capacity. So, in a 1-player 2-controller run, you don't really worry about that for the most part. Also, we skip the cutscenes associated with that, so, well, time saved. The other part is that whenever I'm opening up the menu on my second controller and closing it again, I do two things. One is I check the little scrambled mess at the bottom left to see which charge attack I'm going to get, because the way the game handles it, it has like two regular swings, as in two regular attacks, as if you were to just throw the boomerang normal in this case, and then it goes up to charge level 1, charge level 2, charge level 3, 4, 5, 6 and 8, and then it resets back to regular attack, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Basically, the animation you get is very important in order to try and hit an enemy with certain attacks and projectiles. In this case, it's gonna be even more important because I need to specifically get a melee portion with my boomerang attack, and I'm not entirely sure where they are. Let's see whether we can get this. So I'm charging up the boomerang to level 1, switch up weapons twice, the boy starts overcharging the weapon, and let's see what I'm going to get here. Alright, that is in fact a melee attack. However, you might wonder, oh, that didn't hit, so I guess it doesn't hit. Ah, it does hit. Nice. So, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure only specifically that boomerang attack will hit, because I've tried others and it didn't hit. Either way, we can't hit the wall face, and so we're good. Okay. Nice. I didn't even have to exchange.
The wall got floored.
The wall got floored, yep. It now is... No particles. Sure, let's go with snow. Alrighty, I feel like only specifically that boomerang attack can hit. Let's hope I hit it again on the next wall boss. But yeah, the other part is, I'm not just checking which charge attack I get, but also the second controller menu allows me to reuse that same charge attack again by buffering, releasing the charge attack in the menu and then repressing it as the menu closes. This makes the game simultaneously unleash a charge attack that I currently have with the full power, and then also not set it back to level 0. Which means, as soon as I start charging up my attack again, I am back straight up at whatever charge level I had before. So this actually allows me to retain my charge attack, which is very, very handy. You're evolved into a door, pretty much. Or a ladder, because we kind of were falling into a hole there. So, alrighty, now we just need to run through Pandora Fields. We used to actually take the cannon travel north of Pandora. Turns out this is faster. Mainly, so here's the thing, the cannon travel is not terribly far away, but the animation for the cannon travel actually takes such a long time. You can quite simply run all the way down in this little spiral here into Gaia's navel before the cannon travel animation is done.
Well, I have a quick donation to go ahead and read here.
Sure, go ahead.
We did get $5 from He Who Is Pale. No comment or anything, but thank you very much. And just a reminder, we're still looking for some love to name the avatar in Squibbin's next Ultima 6 run. Any donation right now will put you in the lead to name our hero. We also have a couple of runs later. We have Vanguard Bandits. Still looking for a couple of goals to be met for that. Appreciating the opening movie. We're only at $13 off 90. And extra dramatic final boss fight is only at 45 out of 100. About halfway there. So looking to try to meet some of these goals, or maybe even get a name for the avatar next run.
Indeed. Thank you very much for hosting, Spirits. So, and welcome everybody, I hope you're doing well. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in chat. I'm pretty terrible at reading chat, unfortunately, so I might not see it. Sorry about that in advance, I suppose. But, yeah. Here we go. This is the Kilroy. Kilroy also has evasion, so every boss from here on out, except for one, has evasion, which means I will miss 40% of my attacks, and there's nothing you can do about that. Like that attack with the sprite there, technically, absolutely hit. Practically, didn't hit. But again, there's not really a whole lot I can do about that. And we hit them with this one. Nice. So the Kilroy is mildly dangerous in terms of just losing time rather than actually losing the run. Whenever he manages to hit a character, he has a high chance of moogling that character, which means you can't attack. And in case of the boy, I would have to redo my entire charge attack setup, since I would lose all my charge attacks. So that would just take a bunch of time. But it's never really dangerous per se. Speaking of dangerous, the next boss, however, is going to be, because he could effectively instantly use his Acid Storm attack. I keep forgetting whether it's Acid Rain, Acid Storm. Either way, it's an attack that will one-shot both the boy and the sprite if I get hit by it. So, we just hope he doesn't do that. He very, very rarely actually uses a spell, for that matter. But if he does, unlike most other bosses, there is absolutely no tell when he is going to use the Acid Rain. It will just suddenly, boom, hit me. There's a small window of opportunity where I might be able to deny that attack, but chances are I will die if I get hit by Acid Storm. So let's see, and hope that it doesn't happen. Oh yeah, welcome to anybody who may have joined us. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Seeker of Mana, one player, two controller, as you might be able to tell, and for the cannon travel, I am activating this text box with the second controller in order to be able to move slightly faster after we land. You might be wondering, hey, why haven't you done this with the other cannon travels? The short version is, in some places it's not useful. In other places I was going to do something that required the first controller anyways to move without having the second controller active, so basically there's usually reasons. And sometimes the reason is just, it was easier to manage. Because when you have two controllers, well, sometimes you have to kind of make a bit of a compromise between what you can reasonably do as a single person with two controllers and what you can possibly achieve with, like, just one. Which is also why, in a lot of cases, I'm only running through the areas with just one controller and having the AI control the second character. Alrighty, here we get to the Jabberwocky. Jabberwocky is super strange because his hitbox is below his feet. Like, don't ask me, it's kind of like effectively halfway down his body, below his feet, and this is actually very convenient to be able to hit him. So what I can do is just swing there. That actually could have hit with the sprite, just saying. And this did in fact hit. So you can see the boomerang would have probably been way short of his actual physical sprite, but because his hitbox is way lower, well, it did hit. And just for reference, this is actually why the boomerang is so nice, because we do have a 40% chance to miss. We effectively, as a result, have a 60% chance to hit. But because we get 2 attacks at once, with the boomerang, we actually often have 2 times 60% chance to hit, or well, basically in the end just a 16% chance to miss, if you want to do the quick math on that. So it's actually pretty good. The main reasons why the boomerang is still not used despite that are mainly 3. 1, it's really awkward to try and get up close and personal to a lot of bosses, like you have to get really, really close to them. 2, you get the boomerang kind of a bit late. Like the best opportunity to level up your weapon has just passed as soon as you get the boomerang, so it's kind of awkward to find a good route for that. And 3, the spear, as well as the sword I suppose, actually provides you a lot of invulnerability frames whenever you do certain fancy charge attacks. And those actually help you quite a lot to avoid certain attacks being lethal by enemies and bosses, and just attack with your charge attacks without getting hit yourself first. So it was theorized for a while that the boomerang might technically be faster and more consistent, but so far I don't think anybody has really figured out how to possibly achieve that. And really, consistent is kind of the key word in this case. Alrighty. Here I once again land with the second controller in order to be able to hopefully talk to with those Moogles as soon as they are out of there. Unselect the second controller and off we go. So, up until now we've only had bosses that dealt or had evasion, which once again, evasion, in short, either enemies have evasion or they don't. There's not really anything in between. But effectively, hang on. Yeah, this is true for these little guys as well. They either have evasion or they don't. And kind of like before, we have about a 60% chance to hit. And so far actually my chance to hit has been pretty good. Pretty sure this boomerang's attack specifically only got 1 attack off, but hey, I got lucky there. I take it. So that was really nice. So those pepplers can be a bit of a time sink. They are never dangerous per se, but they just might take quite a while until you manage to defeat them, because they can just keep dodging your attacks if they feel like it. Alrighty, and now we are soon going to be at the sprite's hometown. I'm just gonna use a medical herb here for safety, because these owls really don't like you. And if your character is silenced, or well, confused, because the silence also confuses, which is confusing. As soon as any of the characters is confused, it will actually have that character get hunted and chased down by those owls, and they attack like 5 times a second, and with us having not really upgraded our equipment, that's actually a lot of damage. They could potentially just one-shot the boy if they attack like 5 times in a row and actually hit all of these attacks. Alrighty, here we get to the next boss. By the way, if you like boss rush, Secret Mod is amazing with that. I love boss rushes, and you almost never heal in between places. This could be bad, so I'm just going to cast a spell here. Not me if I... So, here's the thing. Boomerang has actually a slightly better chance to hit this guy, but because I have to go so up close and personal in order to hit this thing, pretty difficult to achieve. There we go. Nice. Alrighty. Spring Beak. If you try to hit him with a melee weapon, including the melee portion of the boomerang, the problem is actually that he has a beak, which acts as a shield. Which means if you hit his shield with a melee weapon, it will just make a zing noise and you don't deal any damage. It will just be deflected. And that is very true for pretty much every melee weapon. And on top of that, something you may not know, melee weapons in boss battles are actually twice their regular size. So, as in area. It's not technically twice the reach, it's just twice the size of the area of attack they have. So either way, the reach your weapons have might be surprisingly large, and thus you will hit the beak way more often than not, which is why usually using a ranged weapon against the spring beak is more desirable, or if you want to just cruise through the game, destroy him with some spells. Spells are ridiculously powerful in Seeker of Mana, and it's only testament to the ridiculousness of overcharge attacks that we don't use them, really. Like, spells are not much slower, really. So, we save here just because there's an easy save point right here, and kind of like before, the game never checks whether we seal the Mana Seed of Wind, so we don't. Casually, I highly recommend you seal the Mana Seed of Wind as well as the Mana Seed of Earth, because otherwise you cannot level up your spell to the next highest level. Right now our spells are still locked to level 1 because I never picked up either of these Mana Seeds. So there's that. Also, speaking of spells, sometimes there is these orbs in the way and we have to use a specific spell from a specific school of magic in order to, well, open up those passages. And that's just what we did. We could have gone to this specific screen before, but because we didn't have Sylphid as our magical element, we couldn't have gone through here. Curiously enough, because we skipped the lady, we actually can just still continue, but if we actually skip getting the sprite, or in this case the boy, I guess? That's weird. If we actually skipped the other character instead, we would not be able to proceed there because we pretty much need that character in order to continue. And oddly enough, there would technically be a skip that would allow us to get past there without a hitch. As in, we can go and defeat the Springbeak before we ever pick up the sprite by doing some out of order early game shenanigans. Also, by the way, we can just straight clip through that NPC. Poor guy. Alrighty, so let's move on. There we go. Okay. This guy here, once again, Pebblers, or the little hedgehogs, they do have evasion, which means the chance to hit them isn't that grand or great. There is an owl right here, so I'm gonna hit it. These owls love to cast silence as their very first action, so there's two things you can do. Either basically have them off screen for just a moment when they spawn, until they stop running through their AI script where they cast silence all the time, or alternatively just hit them off screen. In this case, I'm just gonna hit this guy off screen, and this guy. Or try to anyways. Well, and there's the silence, as mentioned. Oh well. We should be still fine here, however I need to hit this guy, otherwise the boy will get clobbered by that little owl. Those are called Nemesis owls, and they are truly Nemesis, but not nearly as bad as certain other enemies coming up. So here we need to use Earth's Light on this little orb in order to open up a passage. So this orb here and the previous one are the main reasons as to why we cannot really skip getting the sprite. Also, I'm just gonna use a medical herb here on the sprite, which removes the confusion, which immediately makes the owl a lot more docile and stops attacking the boy, which is a lot nicer. Okay, and here we get to the Great Viper. So this guy is a problem, because for whatever reason, you literally cannot hit him with projectile attacks. It's straight up impossible. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a level charge attack that has a melee portion to it. This might work? No, this doesn't work. Maybe? Nope, that's just a regular attack. So if it doesn't work in the next one, I am going to just stop trying, because this is really dangerous doing this. Okay, that's a level 2 charge attack. Hitting an enemy with a level 2 charge attack is really, really difficult. And I'm surprised I got one hit in there. Because the hitbox is super awkward. We'll try to get a different one here. This would be good. Alright, we can use that. We've been lucky that the Great Viper has been pretty nice overall with its movement and pattern, so thank you very much. Otherwise I would have switched to the sword a bit earlier. Because this is actually pretty dangerous if I linger around in this arena for too long. Keep in mind we still haven't upgraded our armor, we are actually pretty under-leveled, so we take a lot of damage. But we managed to get through, so it's fine. Alrighty. On the topic of the remake, I personally like the remake, but it also feels like it could have been so much more. But I still think it's an okay game. Just, if you want to play it, I recommend getting it on sale, but not necessarily full price. Alrighty, next up, we are instructed by King Truffle that, hey, he is going to keep Flammy. And fun little fact, in that text box where the King Truffle actually asks you whether you like the name Flammy that he gives the little dragon or not, you're supposed to have the option of saying, "Oh," or "That's a nice name." But they kind of messed up the programming on that text box, and instead it just kind of advances by itself after like 2 seconds, without you being able to choose the option, and you basically by default always choose, that's not a good thing type of choice instead. It's a little bit strange. Alrighty, now we will have the choice to go to the Ice Country or we can go to Kakara instead. This is basically also a choice you have casually, where you can go to the desert first or you can go to the Ice Country first. Doesn't really matter which one you choose first, but casually you might think, oh, isn't it faster to go to the Ice Country because you need the Salamander, the spirit magic of fire, in order to clear the entirety of the desert. And that is true. However, there's a weird quirk where the first time we get shot into the desert from specifically Matango, we are lost in the desert and we need to find our way around. So there's multiple ways through this maze. It's basically an infinite maze until you find your way through. Up, left, down, right is the quickest one. And this kind of getting lost in the desert cannot occur from the Ice Country. Instead of the guy in the Ice Country will tell you, hey, I don't have enough gunpowder to shoot you over to the desert. My destination limit is Matango. So you have to go to Matango first, and then you can go back over to the desert from there if you go to the Ice Country first, which ends up being just slightly slower. Not much, but a little bit. Alrighty, after we wander through the desert and almost shrivel up like a little olive, because we are dehydrated quite a bit, we got rescued by the sandship captain and his crew, and the boy gets sent to the machine room where he's supposed to run around and generate heat by walking in random patterns. The sprite gets sent to the kitchen in order to eat all the food, and the lady, which, well, is kind of an imaginary companion at this point, gets made real by visiting the captain's cabin. I think that's kind of how it works. If you would like to have an actual story of this, it's neat. Nothing too special, but it's kind of enjoyable in terms of the story, and so I recommend you maybe give it a shot and try and play. There is the mana collection on the Switch that makes it pretty easy to access this game from that matter, or you could play it on an SNES Mini, kind of like I do. And actually, I recommend the SNES Mini version if you have problems with, like, seizures and such, because flashing lights and images. So that's kind of worth noting. That is the only version that I know of that has these flashing effects significantly reduced and actually removed even. Which I'm really surprised that they didn't do that for the collection of mana, as in they did not use this version. So here, our imaginary lady gets made real, and she actually joins our party. We don't get to name her, because that naming event only happens either in Pandora Castle or after we free her from the werewolf. So her name is going to remain go 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 go. And she is also level 1, no equipment. But also, thankfully, because we don't get to name her, she actually still has the spells that otherwise would get overwritten by her name getting initiated, so it's actually a good thing that we don't get to name her. Alrighty, so here, now we get to fight against Mech Rider number 1. He is the last boss who has no evasion. Excuse me. He is the last boss who has less than 1000 HP, but the damage cap in Seeker of Mana is actually 999, which means we cannot possibly deal any more damage than 999 in a single swing. So that's kinda that. And unfortunately, if I keep missing, he also keeps just dashing across the arena. I try to get a different charge attack, I guess. Oh yeah. Well, not particularly lucky here. Let's see what this is going to be. That's a good charge attack, but we get a double miss right there. Wow. There we go, now we get it. Okay. Mech Rider number 1 down. So that weird voice we've heard this entire run gets manifested in the lady. And you know what? Up until now, it has actually been exceedingly nice to not have a third party member, because in this game, whenever you are running through an area or just kind of moving in general, your characters are limited to a certain camera box, which is about like 2 or 3 tiles off the edge of the screen. And your characters cannot leave that camera box outside of specific, well, instances, let's put it that way. What this means is that you can actually get stuck because your AI control characters get stuck and you cannot go too far away from them. And trying to manipulate them into following your suit without getting stuck everywhere is actually quite a difficult thing to master in this game. To be fair, I weirdly enjoy being able to manipulate the AI control characters, so they just get all around the corners and relatively smoothly around everything too. Like, it's a weird form of satisfaction to master all these things. I meant to give everybody Frost Saber. Let me redo this real quick. But casually, it's kind of notorious on how often your AI control characters get stuck everywhere and hinder your progress, especially in the early parts where there's a few sections that are like lots of corners and edges. Not having a third character there is so much easier and also faster for that matter. Curiously enough, this is approximately the point where we would like to have a third character in order to make stuff go a lot more smoothly in the future. So we just upgraded our armor, but let me tell you, these guys don't really care about the armor all that much, because these things are actually really vicious and dangerous. Like, these wolves have a super ridiculously quick attack pattern and attack well, movement and all these kinds of things. Which is why I put frost weapons on my weapons in order to just freeze them so we can get more easily past them. The boomerang doesn't exactly make this any easier because I can't do my normal movement since the attack swing is very different. Oh, they're fine. So, by the way, something I haven't quite mentioned yet, I actually do a lot of enemy spawn manipulation in order to get through this game a lot more easily than we would otherwise get through. So this is Boreal Phase. He's kind of like Tropicolor 2.0. And he spits on pumpkin bombs, which I'm trying to redirect into, oops, the bushes over there so we don't get hit by them. Let's see whether I can get a double hit. Not like this anyways. That could have been a double hit, I think, because that's a level 1 charge attack. I didn't get a double hit. That's alright. Sprite dying actually could normally be an issue, but because I have a lot more weapon experience, than usual. It's not that big of a deal. Boom. Alrighty. We managed to defeat Boreal Face. So once again, pretty much every enemy has over 1000 HP, so no matter what I do, I need to deal 2 hits. On some bosses, you can possibly deal 2 hits at once. On a lot of bosses you cannot, which is also why the boomerang is not as excessively good as it might initially appear to be. So here, I'm actually using the second control in order to talk to this guy, walk onto this little podium here, and then interact with the oven before I talk to the other guy, because he can only have one text box up at a time. We skip the text box with this green guy, which normally tells you, hey, can you pay attention that nobody opens up the oven, because I need to go for little boys. So, and here, this is an excellent example of the entire sequence of events being messed up. Everything is just one step behind. Salamander appears when he's supposed to disappear. We get teleported to the next scene. One step behind. These guys are going to appear when they are supposed to walk away and disappear. It's kind of weird and strange. But this is kind of how Secret of Mana keeps track of its events. It basically will... Let me go. It basically just keeps counting up a number for specific areas and specific sections in order to keep track of how far you are into the plot of these areas. And this is going to be true for the next section too. So what you're normally supposed to do at this point is you're supposed to go ahead and enter the Ice Palace and retrieve the Mana Seed of Fire, which has been stolen by Santa in order to, well, grow a gigantic Christmas tree. I'm not even making that up. And because the Mana Seed of Fire has been stolen, it is of course not in the Mana Palace of Fire. However, we are going to just quite simply skip one of the orbs in the basement, where you need Salamander magic in order to activate it. Skipping that orb in the basement allows us to effectively mess up the entire sequence of event inside the Fire Palace by one step. And this makes it so that the Fire Palace Mana Seed actually has never been removed. So we can just seal it and we are on our way to the next area. Right? Actually, it is that simple. So there's invisible enemies in the sand that I need to avoid. Also, what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to give a barrel to the sprite and to the boy. Then I'm going to cast Cure Water on everybody. I'm going to give the lady a barrel. Switch over to the lady, hope that this guy is not in the way. Please go out of my way, please go out of my... thank you. Wow, that was close. Alrighty, so this is the barrel slide. Basically, there's multiple ways of getting up that ramp. Without getting into too much detail. Effectively, having a barrel equipped and getting healed allows you to just continuously move without ever getting interrupted in one direction. And this allows us to just slide up that ramp that normally pushes you down and you cannot even run up it. There's, however, other mains that probably most kids have figured out when you just repeatedly use the glove in order to punch your way up the passageway there. You can actually just relatively easily keep going back up or higher. That's not what I meant to do, that's okay. So this makes it kind of interesting. Also here, another skip. I'm actually activating this orb here twice, and then also giving the sprite medical orb here. So I'm also timing my sequence of events to step onto this switch just at the right time, and this allows me to just completely ignore the Minotaur boss here. So the short version of what just happened, normally when you enter the arena with the Minotaur, you get moved up about 5 tiles. The torches appear behind and in front of you, and you cannot leave until you defeat the Minotaur. However, what I did practically there is I activated the seed twice, or the orb twice with the sprite's magic. And what that allowed me to do is, the first one did the normal thing, it activated the event in order to be able to open up the passageway. However, the second one got delayed because I immediately casted a second time, stepped on the switch with a specific timing. It got delayed so far that I was able to put that event into the next room, and that event, with having activated the switch a second time, actually overrode the event that was supposed to take place in the next room. Instead of locking me into the arena, I can just walk straight through it. And most bosses do have actually a collision box, so you cannot run through them, but funnily enough, specifically Minotaur, you can just run straight through him. Alrighty, Santa's evil forever now? Maybe. Maybe not. So, activating the Mana Seed of Fire is actually the last seed that we need to seal in this run. We have methods around everything else. But that seed specifically we had to seal in order to unlock the cannon travel over to the Empire here. And so we are here in Southtown, where we are supposed to talk to Mara in order to, well, get the key in order to go into the sewers, but funnily enough, you can just walk right past this guard if you are pixel perfectly aligned with the wall. And this is not exactly much of a problem, I suppose. So he just doesn't care because he didn't see, well, at least the boy. The sprite and the girl running past apparently were not that big of a deal. Also, sometimes these blobs go into a chase mode, which is actually pretty dangerous. But we have balloons in order to help us out, and I also do notice that the lady had no more MP left. I'm just gonna give her some more MP. So this is basically the safe and easy version, and we actually have not found a consistent way past these slimes here in particular without getting hit. The reason why it's so bad to get hit by these slimes here is because they freeze your character and make you into a snowman. Happy little snowman. Well, the catch is, of course, that if you're a snowman, you cannot move around, and it's basically a stun for about 8 seconds. I did not mean to leave this. That's silly. But yeah, these fish here in this room specifically are also really mean. So we just ignore them by balloon. So that specific balloon in the first room I did and the balloon in the last room I just did are not normally in the route, but usually if stuff goes south and the enemies are not cooperating, ballooning is kind of a nice option. It's effectively an 8-second stun. Alrighty, we've managed to get through the sewers and, well, the rebels just trust us, even though we just snuck into their system and go, alright, well, we have our own mission to do. Let's go. I'm going to go ahead and save real quick before going into this next section here, because it could be rather dangerous.
Cool, while you're going ahead and saving, I'd just like to remind everyone that this is RPGs We Love 3, raising money to help the RPG Valkyries get to RPG Limit Break, and any money left over, we're going to donate to the charity of choice of RPG Limit Break, which is NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And coming up after this run, we have that Ultima 6 False Prophet run. We still don't know what the name of the avatar is. So if you want to throw in even a minimum donation, you can name the avatar that will stop the false prophet.
Nice. Alrighty, upcoming is actually a pretty good illustration of how Secret of Mana speedrunning works in a nutshell. The nutshell is, you have a plan for every single room on how to traverse it, but whether that actually works out the way you want it to is both a matter of your precision, but also sometimes just randomness. Usually the strategies generally work out, but sometimes the enemies decide to move just ever so slightly differently, and that can kind of block your progress, and then you have to react on the fly. Once again, there's actually a lot of manipulation and enemy spawn manipulation going on, as well as a lot of other things under the hood. So, Because I actually have a boomerang on the boy, I will not be able to really use the standard strategy on one of the rooms, because I need to usually hit the enemy before he hits me, but well, let's see. On this enemy, in this room here, we're going to delay a little bit before we run up, which usually allows us to just run past the enemy. Sometimes he moves out of the way, sometimes he stays. This is fine. In this room here, we go down right and straight down. Next room the same thing, down right, straight down. You cannot do this movement with the sprite in the lead. Because the sprite actually has a slightly wider but less tall hitbox. So you would actually run into the trouble that you would get hit. I need to spawn this next enemy up there onto the screen so that Spootle Slimes only blob once. I need to actually select the sprite here because the boy doesn't have a melee weapon. Hit this guy before he hits me. Normally that's the boy's job, but well, I can't do that for boomerang. Go around this guy, run through the bottom of the screen here, select the second controller on, well, my second controller, step on the switch, hold down on the second controller so we get out of the door before the sprite gets hit by, actually the boy gets hit by, this is weird, before the boy gets hit by the enemy, we run around this enemy here again, we switch over to the lady, actually that's too early. Whatever, we run straight up left here, manipulating all the swans in the process to be not in our way in any capacity. So the way the game tries to, well, have enemies spawn in your way is it tries to predict where you're going, but because I'm walking in the diagonal, which is not exactly in my way, the game spawns enemies sometimes just completely off the beaten path, which is very convenient for us. So in these rooms here, we just run through. In this next room, I want to run very, very closely towards this wall here. Wait until this guy spawns two little guys, which is great he did, because once again there can only be a maximum of 3 enemies on any screen at any given point, which allows us to just run through this section here without getting hit for the most part. Sometimes they cast a spell, sometimes that's a problem, in this case, not that big of a deal. Alrighty, after the boy gets hit twice, which is the unplanned part, we just get in here. Alrighty, and now we get to our second wall boss, which is going to be a similar problem that we faced on the first one. I have to probably get a very specific overcharge attack in order to be able to even hit this thing. And I'm not sure which one it is. I think this might be this one here. Yeah, okay, we got it. Nice! Wow, that doesn't get much better than this. So once again, the boomerang, ironically, is the shortest range weapon alongside the bow and the javelin when you overcharge the attacks, because the projectiles don't fly anywhere. Normally the game will actually allow your projectiles to fly way further if you overcharge your attack, but if you overcharge it too far, because we kind of want to get the maximum damage out of them. Also the boy reaches level 15, which is actually a sprite, which is weird. Because we allow the boomerang to charge. Could you please get off my way? Charge at really high up. The game has no idea where to place the boomerang next on the next layer, or, well, the next step. So instead the boomerang just does not fly anywhere and literally stays in place. Oh, by the way, here in this cutscene specifically, this is why I play on the SNES mini version. This is really extreme flashing and pretty unpleasant, even if you're not really, like, susceptible to that on your eyes. These flashes are not pleasant. Alrighty, next up we have a vampire. So, here's the weird part. Vampire is actually pretty much the exact same as Great Viper in that, for whatever reason, projectiles cannot hit the vampire, ever. I don't really understand why. It has something to do with the background layers and which background and objects and stuff. But the short version is we can only ever hit these guys with melee attacks. So kinda like before, I have to get the correct charge attack in order to get a melee attack with the boomerang. Let's see whether I can be able to achieve this. Also, on top of that, we can only ever hit the vampire when he is jumping around because, well, it's a vampire. He likes to fly otherwise. This probably works. It would work. Alright, he's going to grab the sprite and start eating the sprite. I'm going to actually cast slowdown. The slowdown here is literally just to lock the vampire into place for a little bit longer. Also, so far we haven't managed to hit this guy. He's been really nice that he just keeps jumping, but the chance to hit seems to be really low. I'm actually going to do the same thing with Analyzer here rather than Slowdown, which gives me a slightly better opportunity to try and hit this guy, in theory. Because the Analyzer spell lasts a little bit longer, this might actually work out in my favor. Let's see. Yeah, unfortunately, we're actually also getting pretty unlucky with the chance to hit things here. But the vampire is super nice with his pattern, so he keeps jumping, which means we keep getting more chance to hit. So vampire is one of the big round killers in terms of trying to get a record, because he can't just keep... well, I can catch it, didn't catch it. He can't just keep flying around forever, and there's nothing that coaxes him to come back down any earlier. He just flies, and we just hope he doesn't fly around for too long. In this case, he actually gave us a really nice pattern. We got unlucky with the chance to hit, still once again about a 40% chance to miss, even if we connect with our boomerang. Nothing we can do about that. But he casted one spell, so that's a super nice vampire, thank you very much.
Well, it seems like my fishing did get us a couple of donations.
Oh, nice. Real quick, I'm going to explain this section here before you get into those. Next, I'm actually going to kill off a character, in this case going to be the lady, because she usually has the least HP and defense, in order to be able to have a ghost in my party. Ghosts can walk through NPCs even in combat areas, which, if you saw the NPC actually just before we enter this little podium here, you cannot, or your AI control characters can normally walk through through NPCs, except when your weapons are drawn, like when you're in a combat area. We're gonna be in a combat area, so that means I have to have a ghost in order to walk through NPCs, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So, to skip another boss. So, go ahead, Sky Spirits.
Cool, we got a couple of donation names for the avatar. We got $5 from Reiko Dactylus that says, who better to defeat the false prophet than John Madden himself? I mean, oh yeah, that works. But we got a $25 donation from B-Dragon28 that's named the avatar Kikoskia. So right now that is in the lead with $25. Thank you both very much for the donations.
Thank you very much, and welcome. I hope you're all having a nice day so far, and a good time watching the stream. You're good at fishing, High Spirits?
Only Super Black Bass. Not the first Black Bass, that one's not good, but Super Black Bass, now that is my jam.
Nice. I'm actually curious, I don't know which fishing game I played as a kid, but I really enjoyed playing that for a bunch, and I'm pretty sure it was only a demo. I don't think I ever got to have a regular fishing game. But
which console?
It was PC, actually, at the time.
Oh, that could be anything, then.
Yeah, that's the catch.
Super Black Bass was a Super Nintendo game.
I see. Nice.
You could tell it was, because it had Super in the name. Just
right.
like if it has 64 in the name, you know what console that was from.
Usually, yes. But then again, Super Highlight isn't exactly in the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, well, Sega is just stealing all the popularity. I mean, they could steal Highlight all they want.
I suppose Highlight is rather special anyways.
I mean, they technically did steal it from Nintendo, because Super Highlight is just Highlight 3 on an updated console. And Highlight 3 is a Famicom game.
Oh, really? Actually had no
idea.
idea.
It's a very bad-looking Famicom game, so Super Highlight is actually an improvement over Highlight 3.
There a fan translation for that? Should we play that sometime?
I don't know if there's a fan translation. I have the game on my flash card, but I don't know if they actually made a fan translation for Highlight 3.
That sounds very interesting in all the wrong ways.
Oh yeah, it was even on MSX first, yeah. Yeah, someone on chat made it a good point. Wouldn't a fan translation require a fan?
Traditionally, yes. I suppose. Oh. Alrighty, we have managed to defeat the Mech Rider number 2, and after this one here, we actually acquire our Flammy Drum. The Flammy Drum allows us to call our companion Flammy to move around the world however we please. And, you know, we've skipped a few bosses, a few things here and there, but now we're getting to the big skips, to say the least. So, if you actually use a multi-tap on the original Super Nintendo, you could go straight into the Underground Palace, but nobody runs that category because it requires you to get a 1 in 16 chest drop in order to proceed, so not a particularly pleasant one to say the least. However, the regular multi-controller category without the multi-tap pretty much goes straight up to Lofty Mountains. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to complete the Temple of Darkness. You are supposed to go ahead and get into Gold Tower, complete that one, get into the Moon Palace, and then also get over to Tasnica for another little subplot there. We're gonna pretty much do none of that in order to get through this game a bit faster. Oh, you're not supposed to die yet. Oh, what did I just say? You're not supposed to die yet. I'm actually going to revive those cactus because I have kind of low HP here. I have 4 cups of wishes left, which I will need 2 of, so I need to recharge as soon as we get the opportunity. Alright, let me actually do this. Just casting a spell on this guy so he does not absolutely demolish us. The entire idea. Alright, how many barrels do I have? 3. I'm going to actually just keep the barrels here. So I'm going to use an alternative strategy to go straight up instead. Alright, we are climbing the mountain. In a bit of a not quite intended way, you could say. But this works pretty well, I feel. And the idea here is that I did not necessarily want the sprite to die, but this is fine anyways. I want the boy to actually take a bit of damage here in order to get through this next section slightly quicker. However, so this guy here normally tells you where to go next. He's basically like your guide, in a sense. However, well, we just kind of decide where to go ourselves by talking to him. When you talk with this NPC, your party gathers in his, well, spot, so to speak, and it allows you to just move straight through. Oh, you should not die yet. Should I have barreled her? Maybe. You're fine. Exploder will kill her. I still need her whip. So I'm going to actually rescue her right now. So you actually want your characters to die at the end here, which is why it's pretty awkward to get your characters killed too early before, wow, you still need them. They are just throwing spells at me like crazy. Like, you get the spell here once or twice once in a while, but them already casting this many is pretty unusual. So marathon luck, because super lucky with Vampire, but also unlucky in other cases. That is the perfect example, I suppose. Either way, you're supposed to do a lot of other things before going in here, but because our party gathers in the spot where we talk with the NPC over there, and in order for the game to ensure that your party can, as a matter of fact, gather on that spot, it allows you to walk through walls briefly. I charge up a level 1 attack, and for whatever reason that level 1 attack just kind of continues a second time right afterwards. Also here we revive the boy by a royal jam right here. But yeah, this allows us to get through this relatively quickly. And then we fight the doppelgangers, oh well, quote-unquote fight. So, there's 2 ways of defeating doppelgangers. Either you can deplete their HP, which is... that's a lot of HP and it's a lot of lag. I love the fight and the concept, but, well, an insane amount of lag, to say the least. What you can do instead is just kill off your own character. Because we have relatively low level and basically no real equipment at this point, we take a ton of damage, and that is a relatively quick method to get through. Alrighty, now, what we are now going to do next, after you defeat the doppelgangers, you're supposed to go straight into... I went the wrong way. Oh well. Now I need to find my way around. I'm pretty good at getting lost on the world map here. Huh. Found this actually quicker than usual. So, how to explain it? The next thing we are supposed to do is go over to the Tree Palace, or the sunken continent, so to speak, and encounter the Empire people there, which is unpleasant. And we kind of had a little trip here to the Ice Palace. So something that some people may not know about, if you die in the Ice Palace, instead of you getting a game over like you do in most other areas, the game actually just revives the boy and throws him out of the door and says scram! That's kind of what the game does. The curious thing is, that is what we call the center shield. And that shield, where you get revived and thrown out of the Ice Palace, only deactivates when you complete the Ice Palace, or when you enter the Ice Country. Well, we did neither, and we did activate that shield. So what we are going to do as a result, we're gonna die, intentionally, which instead of resulting in a game over, we're gonna get sent out the Ice Palace, and now we have basically half completed that event with the battle against that dude. So that's a little bit weird, to say the least. Also, I need to kind of quickly think on how to do the next part, because I have a boomerang. That's weird. Actually, probably just gonna equip a spear briefly. Alright, I will just equip a spear. That's gonna be the easiest way. Alright, what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to do a safety thing for the marathon. Let me check. Oh, that's not good. I'm gonna lose medical herbs if I do this. It's fine. Alright, I'm gonna do a safety thing where I'm going to actually equip and throw away items. This should have brought me back to 1 medical herb. Yeah, 1 medical herb. I'm gonna very briefly buy 1 medical herb here. So this is really just a safety thing. I want to make sure the marathon run can finish, and I'm going to use up all but 2 cups of wishes. So I'm gonna multiply them via the equipment glitch again. So we have enough medical herbs and cups of wishes to revive and finish the game. Need to align myself horizontally in the screen, so I can guarantee it works. Alrighty, this should be fine. So this should be the medical herbs, this is going to be the next thing, whatever that was. And this is going to be the last thing, whatever that was. I think that was barrels and cups of wishes, just double checking. Oh, haha, I didn't use the cup of wishes yet. That's right, I need to use them before I... Oh well, just throw that away. We don't need equipment. Probably. Alright, 0 cups of wishes, we are fine. Save your game, yes please. Alright. Then we save the game and start a new run. Not really a run, but we start a new game. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. So we just death warped basically in front of the Ice Palace after initiating that battle with the big watermelon with teeth. We got killed by the watermelon with teeth, but we are not actually dead because Santa saved us. Don't worry, he's a good guy. And now that guy is really confused as to why we are still alive and just stands around in the Tree Palace and doesn't do anything. So there's basically an NPC that is not supposed to be there, and we can interact with this NPC, which he doesn't have a dialogue box or anything like that. But if you have invisible characters in the party, you can use that to walk through walls. So what is an invisible character? Normally the game makes your characters invisible for certain cutscenes and other events, because that's just kind of how it handles these events. You're not supposed to be able to run around with invisible characters, the game usually removes that status from you, but what I can do is I can save at the Frost Forest Nickel, which corrupts my save file because there's no value of where I am. I'm now holding Start Select L and R for a few seconds, then I load the save file that is corrupted, I save warp into that initial cutscene. I have now invisible characters, except for the sprite and the lady, which get made visible again because they have a healing animation. So for whatever reason, when you have invisible characters, just heal them and they are visible again. Like that's a thing. Don't ask me why, that's just how it works. I actually don't know. Either way, with invisible characters, I can now go ahead and move over here. You just kind of real quickly illustrate, the boy is invisible now. I can move around with him. You can see the sprite trying to follow him. The boy's over here. And this guy here, he is just sitting here. We can try to talk to him, but he is basically stuck because we kind of interrupted the event. We are supposed to either lose or defeat him with the watermelon. If I face to the left with the boy and press the B button on this controller here, you can see this NPC now facing to the right, as if I was talking to the boy, regardless of how far away from him I am. So with this I can then just straight up walk through walls. So what I need to do now is I need to advance the state of the Tree Palace to the next section. So what I'm gonna do is I will be moving backwards through here very briefly. So this is what we call the backwards Grand Palace. How did you hit that thing? That doesn't make sense. The boy never hits anything with that state. That's just weird. Either way, it's just gonna go through the backwards Grand Palace here. Hit this switch here specifically twice. Also use the magic rope in order to get back to the entrance. And then we can go back through here the wall here. Make the boy visible, because I kinda need you visible in order to fight the next boss fight. And we are through. This was the entirety of the Grand Palace and the underground section and all these kinds of things. Except that we didn't do any of that. And we're now gonna fight Hexes, and then Mech Rider 3, and we are already pretty much at the Mana Fortress.
I'd like to point out real quick that you made a mistake. You forgot to name the boy sprite when you created a new...
Oh. I suppose I could do something like that. I tend to forget that. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So, Hexes right now is a bit bugged, and she can only be hit by ranged attacks. Actually, technically, that's fine. I do have a boomerang. That's weird. I can actually technically hit. So either way, normally Hexes right now cannot be hit by regular attacks because, well, we... Sorry, I need to focus here a bit. She cannot hit by regular attacks because she is somehow bugged out. I am not entirely sure about the nature of that bug that is happening here. But the short version is, I'm having the sprite or the lady in front of Hexes to try and effectively tank her. Like, I don't want the boy to ever get hit by attacks, so he just can keep attacking without any interruption. And also, if you get pygmied or hit by most of the things, he will probably straight up die. So that would be also less than ideal. But yeah, that was Hexes. He's down. And up we go to the Mech Rider number 3. For the Mech Rider number 3, we're actually going to do another very quick save warp into this area. So the way the save warps work is, we landed next to the Frost Forest Nika with Flammy. If you then immediately save after you land there, the game actually normally tries to save your current location by looking at the entrance value where you entered that area from and saves that into the save file. The catch is, unfortunately for the game, that there's actually no such thing as an entrance value right now because, well, also double hits for the win. There's currently no entrance value because we landed in that specific section with the Flammy. So the game literally saves nothing, null, into your current location. And when I try to load that save file normally, the game will crash. But for whatever reason, you can hold select start and L&R in order to do a soft reset of the game, and if you hold that combination for like 2 or 3 seconds, the game does not wipe the entire memory clean, and with that you still have something in your current location, but you can still load the save file and save warp to your current location with the state of the previous file. Because that previous file already had completed that intro cutscene, the game immediately warps it to Podos as a failsafe, I would assume. I don't actually know the technical reasons for that. And, well, that allows you to get through the rest. Because you now suddenly have invisible cactus which allow you to walk through walls. So, before we go on and get to the final section, we are going to go ahead and save. Because this next section is pretty dangerous, and funnily enough, it's not actually what you might be necessarily thinking, because this next section is, as a matter of fact, not the Pure Lands. The Pure Lands would be normally the next section, but we're just gonna ignore that, kind of like we ignored a bunch of other stuff before. What we're gonna do here is we are going to use this little jumpy thing. This thing here, when you activate it normally, as you just walk on it, it lifts you up onto the ledge as a little shortcut. It's pretty cute. Like, doesn't really do anything else, it just gives you a little bit of a speed boost. However, what I just did now is I used a level 1 charge attack with the sword, the forward lunge, in order to jump onto it after I call Flammy. So, I call Flammy, then I jumped onto it, and now, the event executes, we are supposed to lift up onto the ledge. We're literally jumping over the, well, cutscene trigger that is normally supposed to happen here that tells you, hey, you actually cannot do that, dude. You're not supposed to be here. You need to go on Pure Lands and stuff. Well, the game doesn't realize that, and we are through here. Here we are. Nice. Now we just go through a few more walls, but that's a new one. I've not done that before. Oh, we're just gonna go through the wall here. Once again, if you use an item or a spell before you hit a rope pole, for some reason you can just walk through the wall for an extended period of time, and that allows me to just walk straight through the wall here. So right here we bring the lady through, and then curious enough we actually want the boomerang in this case. This is a bit of an unusual case scenario. I'm not sure how this is going to work now. This should still work probably. When I use a longer duration thing. Alright, actually I missed the rope pull there. So, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a charge attack high enough that the boomerang's extended reach reaches the rope hole on the right side so the sprite can go through. But I want it to be low enough that... I want it to be low enough that it doesn't go too far and doesn't go anywhere as a result. So this just kind of worked. Now we are through. So this was a bit slower than actually taking normal way because I messed it up a bit, but bear with me because boomerangs, but it was still safer. I'd like to point out that we have not upgraded our equipment in any capacity, which means we are still running around with, well, at this point, effectively no equipment anymore. And most of the enemies here will one-shot us or defeat us. Where did that duck go? That duck just disappeared. That's weird. Either way, our next boss here that we're gonna be visiting is called Buffy. Buffy is like Vampire. I actually don't know whether we can hit him with projectiles or not, because he doesn't have the same layer stuff going on. Let's see. I don't know. He didn't give me the chance. So Buffy is a bit like Vampire. We need to get lucky that he decides to walk around for a bit and not go too many places. We also need to be able to hit him, trying to get this attack charge. This charge attack should work. So this charge attack, once again, some of the boomerang charge attacks have both a melee attack potion as well as a ranged attack potion. For whatever reason, you cannot hit Vampire at all with charge attacks. I'm not entirely sure that is true for Buffy as well. I will just assume it is, and I will just have to specifically use a boomerang attack that has a melee portion attached to it. Once again, there's still approximately, actually at this point, like a 35% chance to miss with a physical move. There's not really anything to do about that, I just hope we don't miss. Also, kind of like before, I'm using slowdown in order to lock the boss into place so it cannot continue its movement. On top of that, I did deliberately have the sprite get eaten by this guy in order to lock him into place some more. So as you can see, that is almost 500 damage there, and the sprite did get one shot. So the special thing about certain items like Royal Jam is you can revive a character or heal a character from 0 HP. You cannot normally do that with candy or chocolate. It specifically only works with a royal jam item. You have to do this before the numbers dissipate, so you have to be relatively quick with actually using the royal jam item here in order to be able to effectively revive a character from 0 HP. So now we just need to get lucky that he comes back down. That's kind of it. He also has a quick physical attack that is 3 more royal jams left. I need to be a bit careful about these. Okay. Ah, come on. So I'm also going to... Ooh, only one left. There's a barrel here. Please hit. Nice. One fairy walnut left. I'm just gonna be careful with that one. We should be fine. I'm just gonna keep it for the lady. That way we should be able to defeat everything without too much trouble. And thank you for the good luck. I can always use that. Welcome everybody. We are just on the last 3 bosses on this run here, where we are mainly using the boomerang as our weapon, which does have rather unique advantages. And because it's the boomerang, I'm also going to use it against the final boss. Because why not? Okay, so here we go. So once again, I'm manipulating enemy spawns in order to, well, make them spawn. This guy here I need to specifically have split twice, because there can only be 3 enemies on any given point loaded into the memory of the game. I manipulate the blobs to split up like that, which allows me to subsequently just continue afterwards. Alright, now I need to get another level 1 charge attack. Okay, I don't know what the charge attack is going to be anymore. Well, that's not a good one, actually. So this acid rain will kill a character pretty much every time it will go through, so need to use a bunch of chocolate and such to deny the damage. Also not a good charge attack. So that's the perils of using a weapon that I haven't practiced as much with, but then again, we'll get through anyways. So this is the Dread Slime. He will only ever cast Acid Rain. He will also only ever target the character that is the furthest away from his center hitbox. You can stack damage on this thing, which means double hits are possible, as well as having double the chance of actually hitting this thing, which is actually kind of nice. The only main problem is that whenever he casts Acid Rain, he is invulnerable for a few seconds, and he is just spamming this right now, which to be fair is not terribly unusual. I've only ever had it twice where this guy was casting only 0 spells and defeated it before. So Dread Slime casting a lot of spells that I just need to deny is pretty common. And yes, we have the mana rank right now. It looks like the basic boomerang because it is. We have never upgraded it, we don't need to. So, I briefly enter a full screen menu here just to cancel the level up text that normally occur after you defeat the Dread Slime. And because we're so low level, we get like 6 or 7 levels, which takes quite a while to display. So once again, I'm looking to move in a very specific way through this area here to not get killed, because most of the things kill me in 1 hit. Down right here, down right here. Okay, that guy didn't spawn, that's good. This guy decides to just move. Wah! Alright, he could have immediately attacked, so I got lucky that he didn't, so that's nice. We're fine here. The wolf usually casts a spell, so we're fine. Wait till this guy. Okay, he's moving. Ah. Ooh. Okay. Gone right into this room here to make none of the enemies spawn. This snaking pattern is horrible when there's an enemy in the center of it. Your AI control characters do not like just running past enemies. Okay, down right into this area here. Down right. And I go straight down here, because I actually want the 3 ninjas here to spawn, because this also means there is no terminators on the right side here, and I can just run straight through. Okay, and we managed to reach the final section here. Alrighty, we have arrived at the Dark Lodge and we skipped a whole lot of plot and all these kinds of stuff, but the short version, the lady is still looking to find dialogue. The boy is still looking to avenge their friends and brethren because, well, they have all been defeated and destroyed by Thanatos, or at least so we believe. The boy, the sprite, excuse me, he is just on the quest to, well, rid the world of all evil so he can return home to Poros. By the way, the boy is called Sprite, and the sprite is called Boy, which is why this is so weird. By the way, fun fact that those Master Ninjas, they can one-shot you even if you are at max level with best equipment. They are kind of insane. But then again, they usually cast a spell before they do anything else, so as a speedrunner you can easily just run past them. Alrighty. So, double hits are gonna be very handy here again, because we, well, get 2 chances to hit. Well, hopefully anyways, because I need to correct charge attack. So let's see. No. This is a 2.9. This is too far. Ah, this is another 1.0. This might work. Nice, this actually does work. I'll get 2 double hits on this thing. Alright, technically do. Alright, he decided to disappear. Can't hit him anymore. But this actually may be the best pattern you can get if he pokes up his head. He pokes up his head and leaves it up there is what I'm trying to say here. Kind of like usual, I tried to have the sprite at the closest proximity to the boss. Or the lady for that matter, in order to try and have them tank the attacks on the boss. Oh, the sprite is down. Wait a little bit. Few more royal jams after this. Alright. This boss here has 6,666 HP. And let's see whether I can do this. It's spooky. I might got it, could still escape. This is what we know as the Dark Glitch Headbang. It's not even technically a glitch, it's actually just a really short AI loop. But what he's trying to do, he is trying to get closer to you in order to snap his hands and his fingers at you in order to hit you. But what ends up actually happening is he is still too far away, even though he's as close as possible with his up and down movement. And he will just continue doing only up and down movements because he cannot move sideways. What this means is we are standing in the exact center. We are never close enough for him to snap his hands. Oh, what am I doing? Come on. He's never close enough for him to snap his hands. And as a result, we will never get hit by his jazz hands attacks. A raving boss, yes. We call it the Dark Glitch Headbang or the Thanatos Headbang. The headbang glitch originally, but again, it's not. It's just exploitation of the AI, really. Alrighty, and contrary to popular belief, you actually do not need the mana sword in order to defeat the boss. Normally in speedruns we actually still use it, just because, unlike every other weapon, it has a 100% chance to hit the enemy. However, because we have the boomerang and people donated for the boomerang, we are just gonna use the boomerang here, so that means I'm probably going to get, like, multiple cycles. We can deal with that, it's fine. I will just need to get a good boomerang attack that it gets a double hit in, and we will be good to go. So, the reason why a lot of people think that you can only defeat the Mana Beast with the Mana Sword is because it has an insane amount of defense. Unless you deal at least 451 damage in one hit, you will always deal 0 damage to the Mana Beast. So, the Mana Sword is just ridiculously strong, like it has twice as much attack power as any other weapon. On top of that, it gets an additional boost from the Mana Magic, in order to improve the attack power even further. So, but we are just gonna stick to the boomerang. Originally we actually just ended up sticking to the spear until we realized that the boomerang does in fact have... That's not a good attack. Until we realized that the boomerang does... not the boomerang, the mana sword actually has a 100% chance to hit, which is way better. I guess that works. Sure, we can roll with that. Okay, if we ever get hit by anything of the mana beast, we're dead. So this means I have to cast spells with the lady here in order to deny the damage. The remedy, just as it starts flying in, or as it starts casting the, or using the fire breath attack here, is perfectly fine in order to deal with this thing. I'm also going to cast Acid Rain in order to reduce its defense. So it has 450 defense, minus 20%, or Acid Storm, thanks to the Acid Storm attack here. Normally I would also spam Slowdown in order to lock the mana beast into place, but we have double hits with the boomerang. We might be able to do it without, but yeah, no. We still have a 30% chance to miss, so you can clearly see both of these boomerang attacks can technically hit, and we did just land a double hit here. But we also have still a pretty solid chance to miss. Wow. Getting pretty unlucky here, holy moly. I put the sprite into the center, so in case the mana beast casts a Lucent Beam, he would be the one that gets hit by it. Alright, and now the mana beast is just flying over through the side. But with a cleverly timed remedy, we are just fine. So this is why I have the sprite in the middle to tank Lucent Beams, so the lady can still heal if necessary. Alrighty, and I'm gonna stop blubbering for a second and just enjoy the music. The mana beast itself has 9990 HP, which means if you land 10 999 damage rolls at the same time or in a succession, you will defeat it. But for us, we usually need about 20 hits, and that was Ziggurat of Mana, 1 player, 2 controller, using the boomerang, with the boy as the sprite, and the sprite starring as the boy, and we go with the lady, all the way to the end. Nice. Thank you very much for watching, everybody.
GG.
Thank you, High Spirits. Did anything new come in the meantime? How's it going?
Yeah, we got another donation that came in for the avatar. We got $30 from Cloudy Shoe that named the avatar Avatar. So the Avatar is in the lead, coming up for the next run of Ultima 6. With $30, with Kikoskia at $25, and boom, John Madden at $5.
Excellent, thank you very much for the donations. And thank you very much for the hosting, High Spirits. I do believe we are not particularly, well, if we stop right now, we are probably going to be decently on schedule again, or are we ahead? I think we are a little bit behind, right? So we probably should cut the credits a little bit short and just go to the next game, I think.
I think we're waiting a little bit for the next round to still set up.
Are we? Alrighty. So we can just watch a little bit here. So just tell me whenever we go to the next one.
I think we're still technically on schedule or ahead of schedule. I think the original Ultima run was supposed to be, what, 11:40 a.m.?
I actually do not remember.
Cool, I can entertain here for a couple of minutes. Oh, we might have to guess what the moon is then, shouldn't we?
Yeah, maybe.
Since, you know, we got some time.
Hey, I'm here to tell you Scala said we're on schedule, so you're okay.
Okay, the ending
Hi,
is about...
Kay.
Hello, how are you doing?
She already left.
Bye. The
Bye,
ending
Kay.
is about 6 minutes from here on, so we can cut it any time. But for anybody who does not know, there's actually a different ending screen for each playthrough you do, and that ending screen is based on the checksum of your save files. So usually we just try to guess which one is the moon. It either is a crescent moon, it's a full moon, or it's 2/3 of a moon. Don't really know which one it's going to be, but what is your guess, High Spirits? You have basically 1 in 3 chance to guess correctly.
I'm hoping it's a nice, bright, full moon because the sun is out now and I probably can't go back.
I see. Well then, I like the full moon. So I'm also going to guess for the full moon.
Full moon's just a fancy sun, but a little bit darker around. Well then, while we got some time to kill here, coming up next after this run will be Squibbins, running Ultima 6, The False Prophet, any percent and no major glitches. Following that run will be a Perler art showcase by Kinda Nerdy Housewife. And then Vanguard Bandits, any percent Empire Route Cecilia ending by Scala Kitty. And right now, the Ultima 6 Avatar has been is right now Avatar, who we got a few donations in towards the end of that run to get that up there. Appreciate it. We also have a bid war for picking the art of the sprites that's going to be made during the showcase. And right now, we only have 2 of the 3. There's going to be 3 sprites to be made. And we only got donations for 2, with Locke from FF6 and the Rabbite from Secret of Mana. So there's a lot of other choices. Any minimum donation will right now get your Perler made of choice. And there's also the pick a song to sing for the Perler art, but there's no donations for that bid war yet. You have a choices between Deltarune, Don't Forget, a Final Fantasy IX, Melodies of Life, or a Lunar Silver Star Story, Winds Nocturne. I may or may not have sung Winds Nocturne before at an event, but, you know, we don't have to go. Also, I want to point out a couple of goals to still be met for Vanguard Bandits. You can appreciate or not appreciate the opening movie, which is at $13 out of 90. Still's got a long way to go. And also, there is an extra dramatic final boss fight, which is only about halfway met. It's at 45 out of 100. So, still got a couple of those. We got some later ones that still need to be met too. Illusion of Gaia Randomizer to upgrade to Apocalypse Gaia Final Boss. And Dragon Warrior, you can still rescue the princess. Doesn't have any donations for that yet. And we're still about $12 short on the Aerith Kills Sephiroth goal to be met.
Alrighty, we are coming up to approximately the ending here very soon, where we see the moon phase, and then that will be that. I'm also actually the restreamer of the next run, so I will need like 2 or 3 minutes in order to get that going, since my left monitor is actually occupied by the entire game, so that doesn't quite work for restreaming. So it will take me a minute or 2 to set up, but afterwards we are going to see an avatar that has a really weird name.
Avatar.
Oh. I really like this ending. The music is pretty awesome. Time flows like a river, and history repeats. We put the sword exactly back where it was, and ready for the next run, I suppose. The sprite needs to hop into a river in order to get swept downstream back to the Warden village, and the lady, well... I'm not sure. Also today, we have a crescent moon. Not a full moon, but this one is still quite nice. So everybody, once again, thank you very much for watching and listening and for lurking the Seeker of Mana run. I hope you enjoyed your stay, and stay tuned for next for the Avatar with Ultima... how many numbers? I don't know numbers. We'll see. Okay, going to switch over, and that means we're gonna lose the Seeker of Mana music, but we get other music in just a moment.